The rain was falling so hard that night it looked like the whole city was crying. Inside a small hospital cafeteria, a tired single dad sat alone at a corner table. His name was Daniel. His coat was wet, his shoes were old, and his eyes looked like they had not slept in days. Across from him was a little pink backpack. It belonged to his 7-year-old daughter, Emma, who was upstairs fighting for her life. Daniel held a cold cup of coffee in both hands, staring at nothing. Then a soft voice asked, "Can I sit with you?" Daniel looked up. A woman stood beside his table. She wore a simple gray coat, but something about her was different. Calm, powerful, sad. Daniel nodded slowly. "Sure." She sat down. "My name is Clara," she said. Daniel. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Clara looked at the little backpack. "Your daughter?" she asked. Daniel's face tightened. "Yes, Emma." Clara lowered her eyes. "Is she okay?" Daniel tried to smile, but his lips shook. "Doctors say she needs surgery. Big surgery. I'm waiting for news." Clara noticed his hand trembling around the coffee cup. "Do you have family here?" she asked. Daniel shook his head. "It's just me and her." Clara's heart sank. What Daniel did not know was that Clara was not just any woman. She was Clara Whitmore, one of the richest women in the country. Hospitals, charities, companies, her name was everywhere. But tonight she had come quietly, without cameras, without assistance, without security, because 1 week ago, she had read a letter from a single father, begging for help, and she had secretly paid for Emma's surgery, but Daniel did not know. He only knew that someone anonymous had saved his daughter's chance to live. Clara looked at him and asked softly, "Do you believe in miracles?" Daniel laughed sadly. "I used to, not anymore." He looked toward the ceiling, toward the hospital rooms above them. "I believe in bills, waiting rooms, doctors saying we'll try. I believe in holding my daughter's hand while pretending I'm not scared." Clara swallowed hard. Then Daniel pulled something from his pocket. It was a folded drawing. "My daughter made this," he said. He opened it. It showed a little girl holding hands with a man. Above them was written in messy child handwriting, "Daddy is my hero." Clara's eyes filled with tears. Daniel quickly folded it again. "Sorry, I don't usually talk this much." "No," Clara whispered. "Please continue." Daniel looked at her carefully. "You seem like someone who has lost something too." Clara froze. That question hit her harder than she expected. Years ago, Clara had lost her younger brother because her family could not afford the right treatment in time. After becoming rich, she promised herself she would never let money decide who lived and who died. But she never spoke about it. Not to anyone. Before she could answer, Daniel's phone rang. He jumped up. "Yes? Doctor?" His face went pale. Clara stood too. Daniel listened silently. Then his knees nearly gave out. "What happened?" Clara asked. Daniel looked at her with wet eyes. "They moved her surgery earlier. Tonight." Clara's heart raced. "That was not part of the plan." Daniel whispered. "They said there is a complication." He grabbed the pink backpack and ran toward the elevator. Clara followed him. At the elevator doors, Daniel turned. "Why are you coming?" Clara did not know what to say, so she simply answered, "Because no parent should wait alone." The doors opened, and together, they stepped inside. Neither of them noticed the hospital director watching from the hallway. He recognized Clara immediately, and he looked terrified. The elevator moved slowly, but Daniel felt like the whole world was falling. Clara stood beside him, silent, her hands clenched inside her coat pockets. When the doors opened, Daniel rushed toward the surgery floor. A doctor met him near the double doors. "Mr. Harris," the doctor said gently. "Emma's condition changed. We need to operate now." Daniel's voice cracked. "Is she going to survive?" The doctor hesitated. That hesitation destroyed him. "Tell me the truth," Daniel said. "We will do everything we can." Daniel stepped back like he had been hit. Clara watched his face break. And for the first time in years, she felt helpless despite all her money. Then a nurse appeared and said, "You can see her for 1 minute." Daniel entered the room. Emma lay on the bed, small and pale, with tubes near her arms. But when she saw her father, she smiled. "Daddy," she whispered. Daniel rushed to her side and kissed her forehead. "I'm here, sweetheart. Did the angel pay the doctors?" Emma asked. Daniel's eyes widened. Clara froze at the doorway. "What angel?" Daniel asked softly. Emma pointed weakly to her backpack. "The lady in my dream. She said I should not be scared." Daniel thought she was confused for medicine, but Clara could barely breathe. Emma looked toward the doorway. Her eyes landed on Clara. Then she smiled. "That's her." Daniel turned slowly. Clara stepped back. "What does she mean?" Daniel asked. Clara opened her mouth, but no words came. Before she could answer, the doctors moved in. "We have to go now." Daniel kissed Emma's hand. "Be brave," Emma whispered. "You too, Daddy." Then the doors closed. Daniel stood in the hallway, empty. He turned to Clara. "Who are you?" Clara looked down. "I'm someone who wanted to help." Daniel's face changed.
"Help how?"
Before Clara could answer, the hospital director arrived quickly. "Miss Whitmore," he said nervously, "we didn't expect you tonight." Daniel stared. "Miss Whitmore," he repeated. The name hit him like thunder. Clara Whitmore, the billionaire, the woman whose foundation had saved thousands of children. Daniel stepped back. "You paid for Emma's surgery?" Clara's eyes filled. "Yes," Daniel's voice shook. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I didn't want thanks." "No," Daniel said. "You sat with me. You listened to me." "You knew the whole time," Clara whispered on. "I'm sorry." Daniel looked hurt. "Not angry?" "I thought you were just being kind," he said. "I was. But you were hiding the biggest truth in my life." Clara had no answer. Then suddenly, shouting came from down the hall. A nurse ran toward them. "Doctor, we have a problem." Daniel moved forward. "What problem?" The nurse stopped, afraid to speak. Clara turned to the hospital director. "Tell him." The director's face went pale. "There is an issue with a specialist," he said. "The surgeon Emma needs is not in the building." Daniel's eyes widened. "What?" Clara's voice became sharp. "I paid for the full team." The director lowered his head. "There was a scheduling mistake." Clara's calm face disappeared. "A child is on the operating table," she said coldly. "That is not a mistake. That is a failure." Daniel grabbed the wall. "My daughter is in there without the right doctor." No one answered. Clara pulled out her phone. Within seconds, her voice changed from soft to powerful. "Get Dr. Levin here now. Private helicopter if needed. And open every surgical support line in this hospital." Daniel stared at her. For the first time, he saw the billionaire. But then Clara looked at him, and her voice broke again. "I will not let money save her halfway." Daniel's anger faded into fear. Minutes passed like hours, then the lights above the surgery room flickered. A nurse came out. "Quickly, Mr. Harris," she said. Daniel stepped forward. The nurse's eyes were wet. "Emma is asking for you," Daniel whispered. "During surgery?" The nurse nodded. She woke up for a moment. Clara covered her mouth. Daniel rushed toward the doors, but before he entered, Clara stopped him. "Daniel," she said, crying now, "there is something else you need to know." He looked at her. Clara whispered, "Your letter." "It wasn't the reason I chose Emma." Daniel's breath stopped. "What do you mean?" Clara looked toward the surgery room. "I knew your daughter's mother." Daniel stood frozen in the hallway. The sound of machines, footsteps, and distant hospital voices faded around him. "You knew my wife?" he whispered. Clara nodded slowly. "Before she died," Daniel's eyes filled with pain. "How?" Clara took a shaky breath. "Her name was Grace. Years ago, she worked at a shelter for women and children. My younger brother was there after running away from home. Grace helped him. She fed him, protected him, and called me when he became sick." Daniel stared at her. Clara continued, "I was too late to save him, but Grace stayed with him until the end." Daniel's face softened. Grace had never told him that story. Clara wiped a tear. "When I saw your letter and read Emma's name, I remembered Grace. I realized her daughter needed help." Daniel looked away, overwhelmed. All this time, he thought a stranger had saved Emma, but it was love returning from the past. Suddenly, a doctor opened the surgery doors. "Mr. Harris," Daniel ran forward. "Is she alive?" The doctor smiled tiredly. "She made it." Daniel broke down instantly. Clara covered her face and cried. But, the doctor added, the next 24 hours are critical. Daniel nodded, wiping his tears. Can I see her? Yes, but only briefly. Inside the recovery room, Emma looked tiny beneath the white blanket. Daniel held her hand carefully. Daddy, she whispered, I'm here. Did I do good? Daniel laughed through tears. You did amazing. Emma looked past him at Clara. Angel lady, she whispered. Clara stepped closer, crying softly. I'm not an angel, Clara said. Emma smiled. Then why did you help? Clara looked at Daniel. Because once your mother helped someone I loved. Emma's eyes grew sleepy. Mommy sent you? No one spoke. Then Daniel whispered, maybe she did. Weeks passed. Emma grew stronger. Daniel visited the hospital every day, sleeping in chairs, eating cheap sandwiches, reading storybooks by her bed. Clara came too, but differently now, not as a billionaire, not as a donor, as someone who had found a piece of family she never expected. One afternoon, Daniel found Clara sitting alone in the hospital garden. You keep helping people, he said, but who helps you? Clara looked surprised. Daniel sat beside her. For the first time, she told him the truth. I built hospitals. I gave money. I saved strangers, but I never forgave myself for not saving my brother, Daniel said softly. Maybe helping Emma was not just about saving her. Maybe it was about saving you too, Clara cried silently. Then Emma's small voice came from behind them. Group hug? They turned. Emma stood there with a nurse beside her, weak but smiling. Daniel rushed to her. You're supposed to be resting. I was bored, Emma said. Clara laughed through tears. Months later, Clara opened a new children's care center, but this time, she did not put her own name on the building. The sign outside read, The Grace Hope Center. Daniel stood beside Emma as the ribbon was cut. Reporters asked Clara, why this name? Clara looked at Daniel, then at Emma. Because kindness does not die, she said. Sometimes it waits years to come back. Daniel held Emma close. That day, the world learned about Clara's donation. But only 3 people knew the full truth. A single dad who almost lost everything, a billionaire who carried a hidden wound, and a little girl who believed angels sometimes sit with you in hospital cafeterias. That evening, after everyone left, Clara returned to the same cafeteria table where she first met Daniel. Daniel walked in with 2 cups of coffee. Can I sit with you? He asked. Clara smiled. This time she did not feel alone. She nodded, and together, they sat quietly, watching the rain stop outside the window.